Greetings, comic book fans. This is H.H. Sherman coming to you from the cover of Darkness. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Here Comes Calico, issue number 1. Many of you have seen some of the reviews on YouTube. We're very thankful, very fortunate to have received those reviews, and the response has been wonderful. We really appreciate that. I want to talk to you a little bit about how I came up with the Calico character and all the people that have helped. And I'll tell you a little bit about issue 1. So last year, 2020, I reached out to Klaus Janson, a legendary comic book artist, and he also happens to be associated with my alma mater, School of Visual Arts. He's on the faculty there. He's a wonderful, creative teacher of the comic book arts, and of course he's a legend in the industry. He was very gracious and very kind to give me some time and attention for the Calico project. He gave me great guidance, and I will forever appreciate his help on the series. We put the concept together, and we think we have something pretty special. And again, those of you who are supporting the comic book, we really appreciate you. Just a couple of words on why I decided to get involved with this. I picked up a comic book after not having read comic books in a very long time. I was a huge comic book fan back in the 80s and 90s. A huge fan of Spider-Man, the Punisher especially, and of course Batman. A lot of the Marvel and DC characters that were more on the anti-hero side, like Wolverine as well. I was very drawn to those characters. And I really love comic books from the 80s and 90s. I think Marvel and DC were doing just a wonderful job of creating these wonderful, power-packed and profound storylines that were very gripping. And even before that, back in the 80s when I was a boy, I found myself being drawn to comic books, not only for the storyline, but these incredible visuals that I looked up to, these heroic figures. And frankly, I just don't see that in comic books these days. Like I said, I picked up some comic books recently last year, and I was very disappointed. I think there's wonderful creatives creating wonderful comic books these days. I just think there's something happening in comic books that it's a little bit unsettling. And then when you look at the industry as a whole, it's just nowhere near what it used to be. And of course, there are other factors that have nothing to do with the creative talent. And like I said, I think there's wonderful creatives doing wonderful work. But I just don't think there's anything really now that appeals to me, which, makes sense because I am quite a bit older and I'm not a kid anymore. And I understand that the publishers are aiming their products at different audiences. But frankly, I think even back then, even in the 80s and 90s, you really had these profound stories that were able to satisfy just a wider group of audiences. So that even an individual in their 40s and 50s and 60s, etc., could really enjoy comic books back then. Whereas I don't know if that's happening these days. Like I said, there are many reasons. I don't want to attack creatives. But for us, I think we found an opportunity here. We said, hey, listen, there's a void. We think we can create a very rich, compelling storyline. And, Calico was something that I was kicking around for a long time, actually. And the pandemic situation really gave us that opportunity to take that off the shelf and really start crafting that into a title. And that's exactly what we did. We think we have something special. So, issue number 1, Here Comes Calico. We're introduced to Hector Gill. Hector Gill is a Bronx original, born in the Bronx and of Latin American descent, specifically Dominican background. And, he's one of these fellows that had a rough upbringing, because you might imagine in the Bronx. And, he's a character. He's someone who really grew up in a violent situation, of course, growing up in a tough neighborhood in the Bronx. So he understood the concept of bullying and interfaced with bullies quite a bit growing up, to the point where this upbringing influenced him, to the point where he started getting involved with boxing. He became very good at it, but he never really won a championship. So over the course of his adulthood growing up, he always had that regret in him. and he always harbored that anger towards bullies. And of course, somewhere he gets involved with this mysterious group that is supporting his anger towards bullies. And of course, we're going to get to that in latter issues. But for now, we're really getting to know Hector and how much he hates bullies. And he's knee-deep in this operation at this point, where he's getting the support from this mysterious group that we don't know of yet. So, needless to say, the introduction that we get to Hector is pretty intense. It's pretty bumpy in and of itself, and we think we have a character with some teeth, with some bite, and we're really getting into the thick of it in issue 2, which is coming out next week. But I wanted to give you a little recap of issue 1. I know you've read the reviews, but from our perspective, what we're seeing is Hector acting out what he does on a regular basis. He receives files, and these files contain information on some pretty crappy people that do pretty terrible things. They're basically bullies, adult bullies, who go out and attack and kill, in some cases, innocent animals. These are beings, these are creatures that are completely innocent, that have nothing to do with the malady that's these individuals are harboring for them. And Hector has a serious problem with that. So this mysterious group that's supporting Hector found the right guy for their exercises in Hector Gill. And of course, at the same time, Hector is also training for a master's boxing competition. Hector is 40 years old, so he is up higher up there in the years, and he's always had this regret, as I mentioned before, and this is an opportunity for him to sort of, get this off his bucket list. It's something that he's always wanted to fulfill as a person, for his own emotional state, to say he won, he became a champion. So this is what's going on in issue 1. He's a man who's trying to win a championship, and he's also witness to a very terrible, particularly vicious attack on a poor innocent dog. And of course, there's not much information that he has on it, so it's an early file. And we're just getting to see how Hector's going to respond to that. And in the meantime, he does get a case involving a safari hunt, people who are just trophy killers, trophy hunters. So that's happening in issue 1. In issue 2, we'll get to that in another video. In the meantime, I want to thank you for reading Here Comes Calico. Like I said, I really think you guys are going to love this. If you like 90s comic books with some serious bite to them, okay, with some powerful, gripping storylines and beautiful art by Javier Orabic and wonderful coloring by Daniel Grimaldi, beautiful covers by Garnabiel, I really think you guys are going to love this stuff. And give Here Comes Calico a shot. You're going to love it.